Do you love the NFL playoffs? Of course you do. Okay, maybe not if you're a Bills fan, but what's better than whittling down the best teams in the league to find out who's number one? And subsequently, number two. But doesn't it seem like there's something missing? You know, the postseason just doesn't feel complete. You know, like your mom after 3 daiquiris and scheduling the pool boy for the 5th time in a week. There's a hole that needs to be filled.
Oh no, that kid.
Wait, what?
In competition, we don't want to know just who the best is or even the second best. No, we want to know who the top 3 are. Who doesn't love a good old bronze medal game in the Olympics? And haven't we just been clamoring for one in the NFL?
Nope.
Well, it used to exist, and it was called the Playoff Bowl. It's the NFL's dumbest game ever. Let's get into it.
Sports are history.
The Playoff Bowl was held for 10 seasons, all conveniently in the 1960s. So from the 1960 to 1969, nice NFL seasons. Although technically the game was played in January of the following year, people would gather at the Orange Bowl in Miami, Florida to see who the almost cream of the crop was in the NFL. But your first question might be, why? Why the NFL Playoff Bowl? I mean, why do we need a game to see who third place in the NFL is? Well, competition, that's why. And no, not the competition between the two teams playing the game. Who cares about competitive integrity in sports?
The investigation is being conducted by a law firm independent of the NBA. I mean, yes, ultimately we're paying their bills.
No, this is about competition in business. You know, the most important thing in sports.
Frankly, never heard of the company Aspiration before.
The inaugural year for the Playoff Bowl was 1960, which was not coincidentally the same inaugural year for a rival football league, the American Football League, or the AFL. Yes, the very one that would merge with the NFL 10 years later and become essentially the AFC that we still have around today. One of the keystone reasons the AFL became so successful was its TV deal with ABC, which would show AFL doubleheaders every week nationwide. The NFL, by law, actually did its TV deals team by team, region by region, and it did not have nearly as many games that it showed nationwide. So the NFL wanted a game with 2 of its better teams in the league that could be shown to a nationwide audience that maybe held some real stakes, although it really didn't hold any actual stakes, but it had the illusion of holding stakes. A vampire would have been very scared.
Sorry, don't do that.
But in other words, they wanted an event to display their superiority over the AFL nationwide. And at the time, the league only had one game they could really do this with: the NFL Championship game, and it was their only postseason game. In this era of the NFL, the league was divided into 2 conferences like today, but back then it was the East and West conferences, and unlike today, they were not subdivided into divisions. At the end of the regular season, the 2 teams that finished first in the East and West Conference would meet in the NFL Championship to decide the champion of the league. So the NFL wanted to add on to their postseason, and they figured the best way to do so would be to add a bronze medal game. A bronze medal, I assume, was actually made from the lead that the league was smoking in order to come up with this incredibly stupid idea. I mean, why not just have a semifinal round and give yourself 2 more games you can nationally televise instead of just 1? I mean, the NHL had a semifinal round back then, and there was only 6 fucking teams. It's not like it would have been some new concept. And while the league was on its bender of freebasing lead, it decided that the best time to have this game would be the week after the championship game, because no one loves to see who third place is more so than after they've already seen who first place is. I mean, that's why all the reality competition shows will show you the first place winner before the third place winner, right? Yeah, I've also never watched any reality competition shows.
That wasn't true. Everything was a lie.
The league also decided to name the game the Burt Bell Benefit Bowl after the NFL commissioner Burt Bell, who had just passed away in October of 1959. But while the league's top brass was hotboxing lead, they landed on the perfect nickname for this game, the Playoff Bowl. I mean, you named it the Burt Bell Benefit Bowl. The nickname B4 was staring you right in the face, the B4 Bowl. Only you wouldn't need the bowl part because it's built into one of the 4 B's. The B4. B4 what? The championship game had we scheduled this fucking thing properly. But in a moment of sobriety, or perhaps they just rolled down the windows a little to let some of the lead smoke out, the league would decide to hold the game at the Orange Bowl in Miami, Florida. It would be the first week of January, and well, where would you rather be than Miami? It was also a way for the league to test out the Miami market to see if it was viable for a professional football team. Foreshadowing, anyone? The NFL would also have golf and tennis tournaments following up to the game in order to make it, like a real event. I mean, aren't you excited now? Golf and tennis. So now that we have the when, where, and why of it all, let's talk about how this game went over. Well, the players and coaches hated it and the media mocked it. It was called the runner-up bowl, the loser's bowl, or
We call it the toilet bowl.
The great Vince Lombardi would call it the shit bowl and say it was a loser's bowl for losers. I mean, the only reason they really showed up was to get the extra game check and a sunny vacation in the dead of winter. But how did the fans feel about it? Well, it took some time for them to come around to it, but they did come around. In the first 3 years, the largest crowd it drew was 36,000, but in the 4th year, that would jump up all the way to just under 55,000, and it would draw even larger crowds the following 3 years, with its largest crowd being 65,000 for the 1965 Playoff Bowl, technically played in 1966, where the Baltimore Colts would absolutely dog-walk the Dallas Cowboys 35-3. Maybe a more competitive game could have helped repeat that large crowd, but the next year in 66, the attendance would dip down to 56,000, not bad, but the year after that, it went to 37,000 and never recovered. There were reasons, however, beyond a Cowboys ass whooping, that this game deteriorated faster than Russell Wilson's Hall of Fame prospects.
He's not perfect, but damn it, he's a Hall of Famer.
Unlimited diarrhea.
Shockingly, one of those reasons was it was a failure of its own success. Yes, the Playoff Bowl proved to the league that Miami could sustain a team. And by the league, I of course mean the American Football League, who would add the Dolphins in 1966. So now that the people of Miami had their very own pro football team, they didn't really need the Playoff Bowl as much. In 1966, we would also get the very first Super Bowl. So, in order, people would watch the NFL Championship one week to find out who the champion of the NFL is. Then the next week, they would watch the Playoff Bowl to find out who third place in the NFL was. Then the very next week, they would watch the Super Bowl to find out who the greatest in all of American pro football was. And if that sounds confusing to you, then just imagine being an average fan back then when there weren't any sports shows or YouTube channels to explain all this, and you had to hope your nightly news broke it all down for you, or read a newspaper. Christ. The Playoff Bowl's shocking success would also bring Super Bowl II, the first of 11 Super Bowls, to the Miami area. So in the 1967 season, Miami would have the Playoff Bowl one week and then the Super Bowl the very next, and this is when the attendance really started to crumble like a Mormon cookie. The very next year, Super Bowl III would also be held at the Orange Bowl, and attendance would dip even further to its very lowest of any year for the Playoff Bowl at 22,000. In the 1969 season, the Playoff Bowl's attendance did go up about 9,000 more than the previous year, probably because there wasn't going to be a Super Bowl held in the same stadium the following week. But the final nail in the Playoff Bowl coffin was the NFL-AFL merger of 1970. When the two leagues merged, the postseason was now expanded to have 3 rounds, the divisional, conference, and championship round, with 7 total games. The league felt like no longer needed this Playoff Bowl and did something unimaginable in this era of sports and actually got rid of a playoff game. that was more of an exhibition game and they were actually adding more playoff game. Still, you wouldn't do that now. The NFL would never get rid of an event now. We've been trying to kill the Pro Bowl for how long? But could you imagine the losers of the conference championship game having to go out and play each other the next week for third place? Actually, you don't have to imagine it that hard because for the last 3 years of the playoff bowl, that's exactly what happened. We'll jump back to the 1967 season when the NFL first expanded its playoffs to include a conference championship round, and yes, the losers of that round would have to go and play each other for third place. Their only motivation being money, and it wasn't really that much money. Now, the amount of money the winning and losing team got for the playoff bowl would go up through the playoff bowl's time, but in its last year, the winning team was getting $1,200, while the losing team was getting $500 apiece. And, your average NFL player's salary back then was about $25,000 a year. Divide that up over your 14 regular season and the 5 preseason games they had back then, you have about $1,300 per game. So this was a little less than their typical game check, but if you were on the losing team, this game check would be far less than you're used to unless you're like one of the lowest paid rookies. Also, in the very last year of the game, the league actually wised up and put this game before the NFL championship game. Exactly 1 day before the NFL championship game. So on Saturday, you would see who third place was, and then Sunday, you would see who first place was. Much better. It only took them 10 years to get there, but they got there. This also created the scenario where a team could go 0-2 in the postseason. Yeah, if you were the loser of the Losers Bowl, you just went 0-2 in the postseason, which is just funny to think for NFL terms. You don't see that. It's funny. So now that we've covered the history of this shit stain of a game, let's take a look at the teams that played in it. We've conveniently got 10 teams that played in these 10 playoff bowls. And who was the king of the losers? Yes, who won this game more than any other team and put themselves at the top of the loser mountain? It was the Detroit Lions, who would not just win 3 playoff bowls, all 3 that they were in, but they three-peated it. Yes, guys, the playoff bowl started with the Detroit Lions three-peating in it. It's just so Lions. But if they're the winners of Shit Mountain, who's the losers of it? Yes, who lost this game more than any other to make themselves the loseriest loser of them all? It was the Cleveland Browns. You can't make it up, guys. Who would lose the Losers Bowl all 3 times they were in it? The exact opposite of the Lions, who won all 3 times they were in it. After all, what do you do with Browns in a toilet bowl? You flush them. Look, if somebody tells you that the NFL gods don't have a cruel sense of humor and irony, just remind them that the defining teams of the toilet bowl were the Detroit Lions and Cleveland Browns. The Cowboys were also in this game 3 times, but they did not win or lose all 3. They went 1-2. The Vince Lombardi Packers would play in this game 2 years in a row themselves, and it was the 2 years that separated Vince Lombardi's first back-to-back championships and his later three-peat. The Colts, Rams, and Eagles also played in this game twice, and the Cardinals, Vikings, and Steelers played in it once, which rounds out all 10 teams for the Losery Bowl. Which means we had some legendary players swimming around this toilet bowl, like Bart Starr, Johnny Unitas, Night Train Lane, and Jim Brown. The 1962 playoff bowl would be the very last game of Hall of Fame quarterback Bobby Lane's career. Unfortunately, the very last pass of his career would be an interception to his former team, the Detroit Lions, who he had won 3 championships with and would later retire his number. He would also go into the Steelers Hall of Fame. Quite the accomplishment for a man who threw more interceptions than touchdowns and had a career completion percentage of 49. The past was different, folks. Packers Hall of Fame linebacker Dave Robinson got his chance to be a starter because the guy in front of him on the depth chart, Gene Breen, no, I didn't just have a stroke. The guy's name is Gene Breen. Well, Gene didn't do very well in the 1964 playoff bowl, so Lombardi traded him in the offseason, and that made way for Dave Robinson. Don't worry, Gene, you'll be back in this game in a few years with the Rams. Lucky you. The same is also true for Packers cornerback Doug Hart, who would get his chance to be a starter because, well, the guy in front of him, veteran Jesse Whittington, showed his age during the same game, that 1964 playoff bowl. And although Jesse Whittington, I mean, can you have a last name that sounds old? Whittington. And although Jesse Whittington was a key piece to Lombardi's first 2 championships and even later inducted into the Packers Hall of Fame, well, Lombardi booted that MF out for Doug Hart, who along with Dave Robinson would be key pieces to Lombardi's three-peat that immediately followed. So shove that in your shit bowl, Vinny. This loser's bowl just found you some winners. There's the fun story of defensive tackle Roger Brown, whose career not only matched the time of the playoff bowl, 1960 to 1969, but he played in half the playoff bowls, including the very first one and the very last one. Yes, he played in those 3 with the Detroit Lions and twice with the Rams, and he won all 5 playoff bowls he was in. And what does Roger have to say about that?
I didn't like going 5 times. I wanted to be in a championship game, but I got money out of that game. So, hey, it wasn't the worst day of my life.
He got paid, and hey, king of the losers is king nonetheless. He also said it gave him the worst inferiority complex, which, fair. Now, let's take a look at the games themselves and see if they were any good. Well, about half of them were blowouts, with the other half being a one-score game, which actually ain't bad. It's about what you get with the Super Bowl. Now, were any of these one-score games as good as they looked on paper? I'm not really sure. It is very hard to find stats on any of these games, as the NFL no longer considers them to be official postseason stats, as these games are considered by the NFL record books to be exhibition games. So, take the Vikings, for example, who have the most postseason losses of any team in the league at 32. Well, they also lost the playoff bowl, giving them 33 postseason losses, had it counted, but the Cowboys are right behind them in the number of postseason losses at 31. They, on the other hand, lost 2 playoff bowls, so if it counted, they would have 33, and then the Vikings would be tied. The Cowboys and Vikings would be tied in the number of postseason losses, which means absolutely nothing to anyone. But I was able to find statistics for the Packers' 2 playoff bowls thanks to a Packers blog site. The Green Bay quarterback threw for a record 3 touchdowns and was voted the standing player in the game. If there's too much of a rush, you can throw intentionally the ground. You're already on the 1, so how far can penalize you? Might want to clean up some of those typos, PackervilleBlogspot.com. But I'm sure their stats are spot on. Now, here's the part where I was going to go through the 1964 playoff bowl, the Packers versus the Cardinals, because it was one of our one-score games. But the game, not as good as it looks on paper. There were only 2 interesting things that really came from this game. One we've already covered with Doug Hart and Dave Robinson being able to get their starts because the guys who were in front of them on the depth charts were terrible in this game. The other interesting thing that happened in this game would be Cardinals wide receiver Billy Gambrell, who caught 6 passes for 184 yards and 2 touchdowns. One of those touchdowns was an 80-yarder, and this was quite shocking because Billy was the Cardinals' 4th targeted wide receiver all year. Now let's go over the legacy of the playoff bowl because it actually gave us some things that are still around today. We've already covered how it brought the Dolphins to Miami, as well as them being a regular Super Bowl host. But the 1966 playoff bowl would introduce 2 things that are still staples of our modern NFL. First, Eagles coach Joe Kuhar was the very first coach mic'd up by NFL Films on the sideline.
That was a good call. He just overthrew the guy. Ask him if that looked good. He just overthrew him. Boy, the gears in that guy's mind didn't mesh for a long time, I'll tell you that.
This led to a player being mic'd up for the very first time in the following season in '67, and without it, we wouldn't have some of the game's best and most iconic sound bites.
That's stupid.
That's right, boys.
This same playoff bowl would also be the very first time that the league used the tuning fork style of goalpost that only has that one support as opposed to the goalpost that uses 2 supports and looks like an H. The very next season, in 67, the NFL would use that tuning fork style goalpost league-wide, and it is of course what they still use today. Then there's also something about the playoff bowl leading to like the losing coaches in the conference championship games being the coaches for the Pro Bowl, but that ended in like 2008. My eyes just kind of glazed over at the word Pro Bowl, and it's not in effect anymore, so who cares? So now that we've gone over all you'll need to know about this stupid, pathetic, shitty, taint-like, garbage, smelly, gag me with the fucking spoon, dumbass fucking game, naturally we gotta bring it back. That's right, in this era of rebooting reboots, we're gonna reboot the playoff bowl, and damn it, I got the best way to do it. So first, we're gonna of course schedule it before the Super Bowl, a week before the Super Bowl, right? Those 2 weeks leading up to the Super Bowl, we need something to break up that long wait. And you can even, in this era of the NFL, have it at the same location as the Super Bowl, and it shouldn't affect attendance for it. As long as you charge less than you would for the Super Bowl, which of course you would, and maybe, make it affordable for the average fan.
Never gonna happen.
People would go to it. We'll also keep the same original official name for the playoff bowl, the Burt Bell Benefit Bowl. And we will of course call it the B4 now, right? Yes, B4 what? A Super Bowl. The next hurdle will be getting people to actually care about this game. I mean, why would you want to watch what would probably become an unofficial tank bowl, right? Teams would probably just try to lose this game in order to get a slightly better draft pick. Well, why don't we give the winner a much better draft pick? Yeah, I'm saying for winning this game, not only are you the 3rd place team in the league, but you will get the 3rd overall pick in the draft. Yeah, now you've got fans really caring about it, as well as front offices and coaches. I mean, could you imagine the 3rd place team getting the 3rd best pick in the draft? It could be the very thing that gets them over the Super Bowl hump. We could start seeing it be a precursor to teams winning a Super Bowl. We could look back and be like, oh, in the last 10 years, 6 of those teams won a playoff bowl a year or 2 before they won a Super Bowl. Winning the B4 could be the very thing teams need to do before winning a Super Bowl. But while that will be good enough to get the fans and the coaches and the front offices to really care about this game, what about the players? Because unless you're one of the top players on your team with a long-term contract, you might just be playing for your team to draft a replacement. So we're gonna have to pay these players a lot of money, especially on the winning team. I mean, we're talking more than the Super Bowl winners get, but that should be no problem for the NFL, who has Scrooge McDuck levels of money, and they can sell this extra postseason game to any one of the fucking streaming services they already have a deal with to get another Scrooge McDuck swimming pool full of cash. That right there should be good enough for the NFL to want to bring this fucker back. I mean, think about all that extra ad revenue as well. You'll have no problem paying the players whatever you need to get them to care about it, and now you've got your great start to your Super Bowl week. I will be expecting my check from the NFL if they go through with this idea. $1 million should cover it, which, I mean, the NFL wouldn't even notice that's missing.
Don't you think we should maybe ask for more than $1 million? $1 million isn't exactly a lot of money these days.
The NFL
alone makes over $23 billion a year.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Your people can get with my people. We'll figure it out. And there you have it. The NFL's dumbest game ever, and how we can bring it back. But if I got anything wrong or I missed anything, please let me know about it in the comments, unless it's any critiques about how we can bring back the playoff bowl, because it was a perfect idea and you can shove those critiques down your own toilet bowl. You could flush those critiques down your own toilet bowl. That's the better metaphor. In my last video, all the legendary feats of Andre the Giant, which was blocked by the WWE 2 weeks after coming out and being my best performing video, I have re-released it, cutting out the stuff the WWE asked for, but you just can't get them numbers back. in that video, however. Well, you guys didn't have any corrections on like hard facts, but I do appreciate the opinions you shared, and you swayed my opinion even. Yes, I now think that Andre the Giant could just drag parked cars around like they were furniture, across parking lots, putting them into hard to get places. I thought maybe he could drag them like a foot or two, but you guys were pretty adamant that no, he could do whatever he wanted with those, especially, if they were the smaller cars for sure. So I've come around to that because, hey, I listen to and heed the little audience that I do have. I appreciate the hell out of you guys. But to user Phil's5423, who called me a frail mean, which I assume was a typo, and he meant man, well, I will address that claim in reverse order, just like your mom, to the man part. Well, if you really want to know, you'll have to pay to find out, which you can do at my OnlyFans. Sports are mystery. What's the mystery? Come and find out. Or should I say, find out and come. And to the frail part. Well, Phil's5423, I just got one question for you. John Cena shirt pull thingy. So there we go. Does this look frail?
Yep.
Hold on. The vocals, But Phil's5423, you also ended your comment saying, it's still like you, which I assume was another typo and you meant I still like you. And you know what? I like you too, Phil's5423. I mean, you watched my video and left a comment, so it's way more than I've ever done for you, so you're good in my book. And if you want to leave me a disparaging comment, but still let you know that you like me, well, I would like that as well. Or if you have an actual correction on any of the facts in this video, please put them in the comments, and they may just show up in my next video, which is where I'll see you next. Unless you hit up that OnlyFans. Like and subscribe. Thanks, bye.
In our business, there is no second place. Either you're first or you're last.
But that doesn't make any sense at all. You can be second, you can be third, fourth.